Now, the 10 p.m. News Hour, live on Fox Bangor.
Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Lindsay Mills. Maine State Police continue their investigation into yesterday's double homicide in Lemoyne, which also led to the death of the shooter. Our Kristen Hosfeld reports that investigators are still trying to piece together what happened leading up to the incident.
No one is ever trained for this kind of an event. You just aren't prepared.
It was a much quieter scene at Lemoyne Consolidated School after having spent most of Tuesday morning in complete lockdown.
Went around and to every classroom and spoke with all the students and reassured them that they were safe and that they would be able to have lunch and go out for recess.
Just down the road, police were at the scene of a double homicide where 27-year-old Leon Tilden shot and killed both his father and uncle. Later, Tilden was gunned down by police. The investigations continued Wednesday, and police say although Tilden had no violent criminal record, the family had noticed a difference.
There were some dynamics that they were concerned about, some erratic behavior on Leon's part over the last couple of months or weeks that caused him some concern, but I don't know that anyone could have predicted what had happened.
Neighbors down the street from the Tildens say this is a generally quiet neighborhood, but to have something like this happen in their backyard is shocking.
It's just a weird feeling to have in your neighborhood that it has always been so safe.
Police will continue interviews with neighbors but say the investigation of the home is complete.
The scene examination has been very thorough. We're looking at all kinds of different things to try to determine if they're meaningful to help us get any further to figure out what happened.
The 3 bodies will be investigated by the Chief Medical Examiner's office tomorrow. In Lemoyne, I'm Kristen Hosfeld.
A teenager has been arrested in connection with the abduction and murder of a 10-year-old Colorado girl who, for a time, was thought to have been here in Maine. Jessica Ridgway disappeared on her way to school in Westminster, Colorado on October 5th. Her dismembered body was found about a week later in an open space park in Arvada. But today, police say they've arrested 17-year-old Austin Reed Sigg for her murder after his mother turned him in. The girl's family is now speaking out.
And I'm really hurt that this person has done this. And I'm really fearful that there's more people out there that will do this to little children.
Just days after Ridgway's disappearance, the search for her expanded to Maine after a woman reported seeing a child matching her description in Dexter. However, that didn't turn out to be her. Meanwhile, officials didn't say much about the evidence that tied Sigg to Ridgway's murder, but they did accuse the teen of another crime.
You will see in the custody that was released, there are 2 charges, 1 and 2, that are listed as first-degree murder. Those are 2 counts related to the Jessica Ridgway case. There's a kidnapping charge, or charge number 3, that is related to the Jessica Ridgway case. There are 2 criminal attempts. One is for murder and the other is for kidnapping. The 4th and 5th, those 2 subsequent charges, are for relation to the Kettner Lake attempted abduction.
In the Kettner Lake incident back in May, a female jogger told police a stranger attacked her and put a rag over her face smelling of chemicals. The woman was able to fight him off and fled. Questions remain unanswered tonight about last night's deadly fire in Old Orchard Beach. An autopsy today on the victim, 62-year-old Patricia Noel, who died in the fire at her Wesley Avenue home, has failed to determine a cause of death. The state medical examiner's office says additional work remains to figure out how exactly she died. Tonight, an investigation by the state fire marshal's office and state police remains underway. They've been gathering evidence from Noel's home and speaking with relatives, friends, and neighbors. Officials say Noel had actually reported the fire herself, but when crews arrived on the scene, they found her body inside a first-floor bedroom, which had been fully engulfed in flames. A 19-year-old man from Augusta is facing charges after police say he robbed a Rite Aid pharmacy late yesterday afternoon. Augusta police say Dylan Karczewski entered the Rite Aid on North Belfast Avenue in Augusta just before 5 p.m. yesterday, demanding oxycodone. Karczewski did not use a weapon but threatened the pharmacist who had handed over the drugs. He then locked himself into an adjacent bathroom where police were able to contain him. The 19-year-old told officers he had chemical weapons, but they eventually entered the bathroom and took Karczewski into custody. He is currently being held at the Kennebec County Jail on charges of robbery and theft. A Superior Court judge has sentenced an Old Town woman for pawning championship rings belonging to a former pro baseball player from Maine. The Penobscot County District Attorney's Office says 28-year-old Andrea Bouchard will serve 4 months of a 3-year sentence plus 2 years of probation. She pleaded guilty last month to 2 counts of burglary, 2 counts of theft, and 2 counts of receiving stolen property. The charges arose after a string of burglaries across Penobscot County, including the home of retired Major League Baseball player Matt Stairs. Meanwhile, prosecutors say Bouchard's husband, 34-year-old Jamie Bouchard, is facing multiple counts of burglary and theft charges. He pleaded not guilty to some of those earlier this month. He's expected in court in November. There's no word on what caused a chaotic 4-car pileup on Stillwater Avenue in Bangor earlier this afternoon. It happened just before the Interstate 95 overpass bridge during the busy rush hour. Traffic was stalled for some time, but police say they were able to get things under control quickly, and the pileup appeared worse than it actually was. No one was hurt, but a couple of the vehicles sustained significant damage. Bangor police are warning area residents of a scam in which victims received phone calls from a caller ID reading "Emergency 911." The warning was issued after a woman received a call saying there was a warrant out for her arrest in Texas. The caller then asked the woman to phone an officer, Richard Johnson, to make a financial payment. Bangor police eventually called the Texas Attorney General's office and did confirm this is a nationwide scam. Bangor police say never give out any personal information over the phone.
And they're looking for personal information. If they're looking for money, a loved one's been arrested. That's an old trick they've been doing. The loved one's been arrested out of the country. They need you to send money, wire money. There's a warrant for your arrest, wire money. Don't ever do that.
Meanwhile, Lincoln's police chief is warning Mainers about a scam that's targeting people on Medicare. Chief William Lawrence says anyone who gets a call from a man claiming to be a government official who needs your Medicare card and number and date of birth should hang up. Above all, Lawrence says don't give out any information. He says the scam artist is probably calling from outside the United States. Well, with less than 2 weeks to go before the general election, 2 super PACs supporting Republican presidential nominee Mitt Romney are making a late TV ad push in Maine. The pro-Romney PAC Restore Our Future and the Republican PAC Crossroads GPS, founded by former George W. Bush strategist Karl Rove, have purchased airtime in the 2nd Congressional District. The ads will begin running this week. It's part of a last-minute push to snag the 2nd District's 1 electoral vote. Maine has 4 electoral votes in all. Rove's Crossroads GPS has already run anti-Obama ads in the state. Romney, meanwhile, has made no appearances in Maine since announcing his run last June. The controversy surrounding former University of Maine President Robert Kennedy's time in Connecticut continues to develop. The Connecticut Board of Regents for Higher Education says Kennedy has returned $25,000 of $50,000 total dollars he received from an expense account while president of the board. Kennedy resigned on October 12th following a controversial year-long tenure. His decision to hand out more than $250,000 in unauthorized staff raises and is spending more than 2 months at a summer home in Minnesota fueled much of the fury. The Hartford Courant also reports lawmakers are furious that Kennedy received $100,000 in additional compensation beyond his $300,000 base salary. Kennedy left UMaine in 2011. Officials from the Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife are hosting a number of public hearings regarding fishing regulations, and tonight they were in Ellsworth. State officials spoke with community members about future regulations to help maintain the waters in the region. Some of the concerns brought up this evening are using live fish as bait and a growing bass population. Officials say these hearings are a good way to address the problem so members of the public can help come up with a solution.
Well, what they accomplish is what we really have asked them to accomplish, and that is to tell us, the Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, your feelings about the regulatory proposal, and that's what the nature of a public hearing has always been to me.
What we hope to have achieved is, number one, our number one goal is to protect the resource, but we also have to balance that with what the public is looking for in terms of opportunity, and there are some people that are really concerned that this is going to impede their opportunity to fish during the winter.
Their next meeting is scheduled to take place tomorrow in Brunswick. Well, it is chilly out there with temperatures down below freezing in some spots, but it will be warming up tomorrow and remaining on the sunny side. For details, we turn to meteorologist Bernie Rayno, who's in now with a first look at your forecast.
Yeah, bright weather. What a gorgeous shot today. Sandy, yes. Sandy down in the Caribbean right now. It'll be pushing into the southern Atlantic later this week, and we could see some of that moisture as we head into early next week, but that is days and days away. First, look at your AccuWeather forecast, and this is always my favorite time of the week because we get to talk about Thistle's Restaurant. They are owned and operated by the Rave family, and Chef Alejandro invites you to come on by and check out the Spanish paella. They have the grilled salmon, and yeah, you know it, the Wiener Schnitzel. That is certainly my favorite. Okay, what a nice day today. A little cold this morning. We warned you about that. How many of you parked your cars outside and then you had to scrape? That may happen again tonight. 29 degrees this morning, 57 degrees though this afternoon with bright sunshine. Nowhere near the record high and the low. Cold again tonight. Clear sky, temperature dropping into the upper 20s. Now during the day tomorrow, it's another gorgeous day. Bright sunshine, maybe a little bit more in the way of clouds, but still comfortable. When I return with my exclusive AccuWeather 5-day forecast, we have some beautiful weather to talk about for tomorrow, but milder air comes with the price, and that's going to be clouds. All that coming up in just a little bit. Back to you.
Bernie, thanks for reminding me for having to find my scraper in my car. Well, coming up on the 10 p.m. news on Fox Bangor, faster internet service could be headed to your area as soon as one local provider is investing thousands into upgrading its technology. And a 150-year-old church is on its way to getting a badly needed new steeple. We'll be right back after the break. The Bangor Region Chamber of Commerce hosted a panel discussion this morning to discuss the issue of state bonds on November's ballot and whether they help or hurt Maine's economy. More than 50 people gathered to focus on two issues, one a $51 million infrastructure repair bond and the other an $11.3 million bond.
Terrific opportunities for investment in our economy. Our board has endorsed both. We think that the state's going to get a lot out of these investments in terms of not only short-term return, the jobs they create right away, but also they make for long-term investments that are going to help the economy over time.
Included on the panel was UMaine Cooperative Extension Executive Director John Rebar, who is pushing for a yes on the education ballot, part of which will create a new animal and plant diagnostic facility for the university.
Agriculture is a $3 billion economy, and it's a big part of what Maine is, and it's a big part of what Maine's other industries are, like, for example, the tourism industry. People come to see the vistas and beautiful land in Maine. That's not going to happen if we don't have viable and successful farms. So it's all interconnected.
Some dramatic video out of New Hampshire of a tugboat sinking in the Piscataqua River. Plus, 5 stranded fishermen are rescued at sea. And a murder appeal hearing is held at Brunswick High School. Adrienne Stein takes us around the state.
Checking news around the state, I'm Adrienne Stein. Caught on camera along the Piscataqua River. A tugboat sinking quickly and black smoke billowing into the air. The New Hampshire DOT confirms the boat was owned by a subcontractor working on the Memorial Bridge project. When it sank around noon Wednesday in Portsmouth, 2 people reportedly were on board, made it off safely. It's not clear what caused that boat to sink. The Coast Guard is now investigating. A crew on board a ship built in Bath rescued some men at sea. Crew members on board the USS McCampbell saved 5 stranded fishermen off the coast of the Philippines Wednesday. Helicopter crews from the ship spotted the 5 men standing on the roof of a boat. The McCampbell scrambled to the scene, arriving just as the boat was sinking. The 5 fishermen were taken on board and they're safe. The McCampbell was launched from BIW in July of 2000. Supreme Court justices are hearing a murder appeal. Dadwa Boutsitsi is serving 38 years for shooting and killing his roommate Serge Malongo. The Maine Supreme Court, which held the appeal hearing at Brunswick High School Wednesday, is considering whether Boutsitsi's Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination was violated when a judge ordered him to answer questions during the trial. The Supreme Court heard the argument and will make a ruling in a few weeks. With your news around the state, I'm Adrienne Stein.
Several Mainers could soon be receiving faster internet service as one provider is making some big upgrades. Fairpoint Communications has announced it is investing approximately $450,000 to install new technology at 11 of its central offices, meaning greater broadband to customers. This upgrade will allow up to 15 megabytes of speed depending on where residents live.
More data is being sent across the internet, so the traffic on the internet is increasing. And as a result, we have to upgrade some of the equipment that we have, and that's what this is allowing us to do.
Fairpoint has already begun some of the installments, which will be completed by the end of this year. Customers in each area will be notified once the upgrades are made. Time Warner Cable is making a major investment as well this year to expand its broadband service in Maine. The Internet and Cable Company has announced it is spending more than $5 million to offer a wider range of high-speed internet across the state. The company announced yesterday that by the end of this year, 3,000 more homes and businesses in communities throughout Maine will have access to Time Warner Cable's fiber optic network. Time Warner is the biggest cable operator in Maine, providing video, internet, and phone service to more than 360,000 homes and businesses. After 5 years of fundraising, an historic area church is getting a bit of a facelift, and work started today. A large crane lifted the first section of the Stockton Springs Community Church's new steeple into place. Laying the base piece, as it's called, is the first step in replacing a 150-year-old steeple.
Family ornate piece that goes on top of this one, then there's a bell tower that goes on top of that, and then there's a spire that goes on top of that. And I'll be working on all that over the next year or so.
The church itself was built in 1853 and is on the National Register of Historic Places. Its new pastor on the job 3 weeks says he's amazed.
We found out on Monday that this was going to be lifted today, and the town just pulled together. Of course, they've pulled together for suppers and all the fundraising, but they pulled together. They shut the streets down. We had the town here. It was great. It was fantastic.
The whole project will run about $190,000. Lane Construction made a generous donation to the fund, though dollars are still needed as the project continues into next year. For more information on how to donate, visit our website, foxbangor.com. Coming up on your 10 p.m. news on Fox Bangor, a deadly shooting on the West Coast leaves 3 people dead, and the gunman is still on the loose. The story when we come back. With less than 2 weeks to go before Election Day, the focus for the presidential candidates is on the battleground states. So today, Mitt Romney made stops in Nevada and Iowa. John Roberts has the details on what the candidates are telling their supporters about the final stretch.
The final debate behind him, Mitt Romney dropped any reference to foreign policy, going heavy on domestic issues, hammering the president for lacking a clear agenda for a second term.
The president's been unable to find an agenda and to communicate an agenda and to defend an agenda, and that's one reason why I think we all know that he's out of ideas and out of excuses, and in November you're going to put him out of office.
As he did in the primaries, Romney is trying to create an air of inevitability, claiming he has the momentum and that the president is fading.
So the Obama campaign is slipping and shrinking. Our campaign is a growing movement across this country.
The latest Real Clear Politics average of polls has Romney up less than a point nationally. Today's Gallup tracking shows a slight decline for Romney, but still at 50%. Polls in all the battleground states are within the margin of error. For his part, the president is on a day-long blitz that won't end until after midnight in Las Vegas, in between campaign stops, hitting yet another late-night comedy show.
And we've come up with a name for this condition. It's called Romnesia.
And he is perfecting the presidential put-down, ridiculing Governor Romney about his shift to the middle, deriding Romney's policy proposals as either smoke and mirrors or horribly out of date.
And we joke about Romnesia, but all of this speaks to something that's really important, and that is the issue of trust.
But the president is taking fire of his own for an off-the-record interview with the Des Moines Register 2 weeks before Election Day. Under pressure, the campaign allowed its publication, revealing that the president has no regrets for elbowing aside the economy to doggedly pursue health care in his first year.
And by the way, there's early voting now.
On the trail, both candidates are urging people to lock in their votes now. In Ohio, 30% of voters have already cast ballots. The Obama campaign claiming a 10-point advantage in Ohio. But Republicans say Obama is underperforming. Both claims are based on polls with tiny samples, and no one has yet seen those votes.
In the last few years, America's been knocked down.
And as the candidates hit the trail for the final push, look who's back in the saddle. Clint Eastwood, who famously talked to an empty chair at the Republican convention, is featured in a new American Crossroads ad with the same visual tone as his Halftime in America Super Bowl appearance.
There's not much time left in the future of our country.
And Governor Romney is going to double down on his push on bread and butter issues with a formal speech on the economy, the deficit, and federal spending Friday in Ames, Iowa. In Reno, Nevada, John Roberts, Fox News.
Meanwhile, the swing state of Ohio could be the key to the presidential race, and polls show it could be a very tight race there. Fox Tobin has more from the crucial battleground state.
With polls split in the single digits at their widest, the ground game has never been as important, aggressive, and detailed as it is in the key battleground state of Ohio.
Will you be supporting Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan this coming fall?
Jeff Johnson is part of a team that has knocked on nearly 300,000 doors just this week, with the possibility that efforts like his could decide the presidency. There's a lot of weight on your shoulders.
A lot of weight, a lot of weight.
The detailed information that volunteers take door to door is evidence that Big Brother has been watching you in past elections. Democrats and Republicans know your name and what is important to you specifically before they knock on your door.
We know who you are, where you live, and how you voted. But more importantly, to us, we have an expectation of how you will vote in this election. And based on that expectation, we will spend a great deal of time and energy turning out those voters we anticipate will support the president.
It's very creepy. I think they're doing scientific targeting, and number one, I think it's good to get the demographic and understand where people are coming from, but at the same time, I think there's something called privacy.
Likely Obama voters get visits from Democrats. Romney supporters, visits from Republicans. Less of the strategy is about persuasion, more of it making certain that no one from the dedicated support base fails to cast a ballot. The personal contacts come over the phone.
Do you know if Charles is going to support Mitt Romney this year for president?
Through the mail and in person.
There is no hiding under a rock. You've got to be in a different universe if you haven't received some means of voter contact, whether it's a phone call, whether it's a door knock, ads.
Voters like Lisa Rogers are annoyed. She stopped answering her home phone.
You know what? I'm just ready to vote, and let's get on with it already.
Through all the personal attention, there is no doubt in the mind of anyone in the Buckeye State that his or her vote counts.
So I knew Ohio was going to be very, very important. And we're all very intensely aware here, right?
For you voters in the battleground states, there is a way to make all the phone calls and the door knocking stop. Vote early. The campaigns are tracking with such detail that the volunteers will know within a couple of days that you cast your ballot and you're a done deal. Then you go blissfully back to the status of unimportant. In Columbus, Ohio, Mike Tobin, Fox News.
A gunman is on the loose after killing 3 people at a business and a nearby home in Downey, California today. Police say the unidentified suspect walked into a fire extinguisher business around 11:15 a.m. local time and pulled out a gun. 2 people were killed there. Police believe the suspect then walked to a nearby home that is owned either by the business owner or relatives and opened fire on people inside the home. 1 person died there. Police say they have little information to go on about the shooter, but say their investigation has led them to believe the victims were specifically targeted. 2 survivors remain in the hospital and say they didn't recognize the shooter or believe the suspect was a former employee. The search for the gunman continues. The attack on the consulate in Libya triggered a wide array of moves by the Pentagon, but after help never arrived, 4 Americans were killed. Jennifer Griffin looks at that part of the story.
Shortly after the attack began, an unarmed U.S. Predator drone was positioned over Benghazi. 6 hours and 20 minutes after the attack started, former SEALs Tyrone Woods and Glenn Doherty were killed at the CIA annex a mile from the consulate by a mortar shell at 4 a.m. local time. The president met his defense secretary and vice president in the Oval Office within an hour of the attack's onset. The Pentagon began moving military assets. 8 special operators were sent from Tripoli. A fast team of Marines from Rota, Spain were sent to guard the embassy but remained in the capital. A special operations force was moved from Central Europe to Sigonella Air Base in southern Italy, just 480 miles from Benghazi. F-16s and Apache helicopters remain parked and unused at Aviano Air Base in northern Italy. 2 Navy destroyers already in the Mediterranean were moved off the coast of Libya on the day of the attack, but were never used. Some former defense officials say it was too little, too late.
For the United States military to say that they were 480 miles away and they couldn't do anything and they couldn't move one aircraft in 8 hours, I'd say it's time to relieve a lot of people in the chain of command. But I just don't believe that.
U.S. officials argue strafing the streets of Benghazi without a clear intelligence picture on the ground could have led to friendly fire. They also feared an ambush.
It's not as easy as people think. It's not as it's displayed in Hollywood on this movie Thing 24, where it's all very matter of fact and it's picked up and done. Quite frankly, they're as concerned about those who they are sending there and having harm come to them as they are about those who are already there under duress.
The fighting at the consulate was over within 1 hour, according to the recently leaked State Department emails obtained by Fox News.
Officials in Washington reading those cables may have thought the attack was over. Now they know that it was a 2-pronged assault on 2 separate locations that lasted for more than 6 hours. At the Pentagon, Jennifer Griffin, Fox News.
It's turned out to be a beautiful week so far, but some rain is going to put a damper on part of the weekend. How much should we prepare for on Sunday, Bernie?
Well, I don't think there's going to be much on Sunday, but we could be looking at lots of rain early next week. I'll have all the details coming up. Full 5-day forecast right after break. Now, temperatures dropping off quickly right now. The sun, once it went down this evening, temperatures have been falling pretty quick. The reason for that, you'll notice the sky is relatively clear across Maine right now, and you can see why. You can see the clouds, especially down off to our south. Notice how they're moving from northwest to southeast. That means we have a northwesterly flow. That's why we've had lots of sunshine the last couple of days, but that northwest flow also bringing in drier and colder air. And with high pressure building across the area tonight, temperatures are going to fall like that. In fact, it's already happened, and we're going to be getting down into the lower 20s in most locations. Even along the seacoast, I think we'll be falling to near freezing. But for the rest of us, upper 20s tonight, clear sky. It is a tranquil night, but you will need the jacket tomorrow. By the way, all these clouds, you see this in the Bahamas, that's out ahead of Sandy, which will be pushing into the southwest Atlantic over the next 24 hours, and we're going to be watching Sandy. Sandy, yes, could impact our weather in a way as we head into Tuesday, but that's still 5 to 6 days away. Until then, dry northwesterly flow continues tomorrow. We have an area of high pressure that will be off to our south. As that high sinks to our south, it is going to warm up a little bit. Not so much tomorrow. All of the warm air will be across the Midwest, where we could be looking at record high temperatures over the next couple of days. But with that flow still west-northwest, no records, but there will be a fair amount of sunshine, especially down east. 48 degrees Baileyville, Machias in at 53. Along the mid-coast, bright sunshine, a gorgeous day. Lower to middle 50s, Augusta 55. Along with Skowhegan, Waterville 56. Bangor, very nice, just like today. Now, there will be a little bit more in the way of clouds as you get toward Bangor to the capital city, Greenville, Millinocket, Dover, Foxcroft. It's still a nice day, but probably not as sunny as it was today. Nice day out on the waters as well. Winds out of the north at 5 to 10 knots. Waves will average around 2 feet or so. Next cool front will be moving eastward later this week, and by the weekend it will be approaching from the west. By that time, Sandy should be off the Carolina coast. And what I think is going to happen with Sandy is that it will be forced out, and then its moisture may come right back into our area as we head into Tuesday, and we could be looking at quite a bit of rain and the possibility of strong winds as well. Again, we're 5-6 days away, but it's something I'm going to keep an eye on. One thing that will also occur this weekend with the front to our west, flow will come in out of the southeast, and that's why clouds will return. Your exclusive AccuWeather 5-day forecast: Thursday, nice. Friday, Saturday, flow southeast, some low-level moisture, a little bit of a morning fog, maybe even some low clouds as well those days. There should be some sunshine each afternoon, though. Highs around 60 degrees. Now, Sunday, I think, is just cloudy. Maybe a little bit of drizzle in the morning, but not a whole lot of rain. Some showers on Monday. If we do get a heavy soaking rain, that's a possibility. That will be late Tuesday and Wednesday. We'll keep you updated. Back to you.
Bernie, thank you. Coming up, NESCOM students go on a cruise. We'll tell you why after the break.
The 10 p.m. News Hour continues on Fox Bangor.
The Bangor Savings Bank Foundation has announced that they awarded more than a dozen grants to nonprofits throughout the state early in the year. A total of $60,500 was given to organizations providing valuable resources to the community, from health and wellness to education. Those involved with the foundation say they are proud to support the important work.
We really like initiatives that raise student aspirations, like JMG, Jobs for Maine Graduates, and organizations that improve the quality of life in the communities we serve.
The foundation is currently working on another program, Community Matters More, which launches in January. $100,000 will be awarded to 68 nonprofits in the state based on organizations for which the public votes. Today is National Food Day, an annual event which celebrates the movement toward healthy, affordable, and sustainable food. One group at the University of Maine embraced Food Day this afternoon with a potluck at the site of its new greenhouse on the campus, which members will use to grow their own vegetables.
I think the whole point is, though it's a national umbrella organization, they encourage a lot of people like us to do it themselves and organize on a local basis, and that's a pretty good philosophy to have.
It's being celebrated across the country at many different campuses, and we decided we'd do our part by hosting a local foods potluck. All the food was donated by the Orono Farmers Market, and we had it prepared by students.
The student-run hoop-style greenhouse will grow vegetables year-round that will be sold to the school dining services. Eastern Maine Community College hosted representatives from Stiles Machinery earlier today to give students the opportunity to network and learn more about woodworking. The event took place on the EMCC campus and displayed a number of new technologies and taught students new techniques. Organizers say they also hosted today's event to show local companies they have invested a lot into the college's program and hope this showcase is qualified.
Try to also get them hooked together to potentially for jobs. Next time we're looking for co-ops for all these students and in these trade areas, and this will be the first step in bringing that together.
Stackpole adds that he hopes students will learn more from today's event, what it is like to work in the trade, and that it will give them a leg up when it comes to their job search. Bangor Ballet will open its 2012-2013 season the first weekend of November with 2 productions aimed to provide something for audiences of all ages. The season kicks off Saturday, November 3rd with Support the Troops, a tribute to the men and women in the military. That performance will be free of charge to all members of the service, past and present. And then the following day, the ballet will begin Hansel and Gretel.
The season is going to showcase some wonderfully talented young dancers. They have a chance to really stretch and create new roles and do things that they haven't done before.
The season also includes an annual gala in January, and in the spring, the ballet will perform Snow White and Swan Lake. For more information, including where to buy tickets, go to bangorballet.com. Most who take a cruise do so to take a vacation, but that wasn't the case for 7 students and a teacher from the New England School of Communications who experienced something pretty neat recently. Each boarded the Blake Shelton cruise on October 14th as a member of the live audio production crew on the ship. Throughout the week, 25 country music acts performed, providing the audio students a hectic but beneficial experience.
Our students filled in, they worked as stagehands. I worked as a stagehand. We did a lot of lifting, a lot of long hours. It was in the sun. It was fatiguing, but it was a lot of fun. We had a great time.
If you have the expectation that you're going to have a laid-back schedule or you're not going to be working hard hours, you're already failing in this industry. You need to really take the initiative to up the ante and push yourself as well as you can in order to benefit yourself and the people that you're working with.
All of the students were offered future freelance work after graduation. That's pretty cool. If this sounds like something you'd be interested in, you can attend NESCOM's open house on Saturday. For details, go to nescom.edu. Hey, Brian.
Hey, Lindsay, how are you?
You slipped right in there.
I do. I always just sneak right in like a cat burglar. Well, tonight it's high school soccer playoffs continue. We started with the girls' quarterfinals yesterday. Today, the guys, and we have got a bunch of highlights to show.
A lot to get to. Sports is next after the break.
Slip into your cat there.
Bruce Jenner impersonation.
Bruce Jenner? Oh. Right? I don't know. It's like...
17-13.
Thank you. You slipped right in there.
Yeah. What does Bruce Jenner even say? He's got like... I used to be respectable, and now... Whatever happened to respectability? The milkman, the paperboy, the evening TV. Waiting just around the bend. Ben Goulet. Not ever good to hear. Want me to toss the break?
You want to toss the break?
Yes, please. We're a minute and 7 seconds heavy, so I'm just going to, after you go.
Hollywood! See you later.
Now, Fox Bangor Sports.
The high school soccer playoffs press on today. Boys quarterfinals for the most part this afternoon. We start in Hamden, where they actually had a boys and girls soccer doubleheader. We start with the boys in the 4 p.m. beginning. Ian Miller, just like Justin Bieber, never say never. From his seat with a nice pass to Ben Foster, just misses. A few minutes later, centering pass to Foster, who eyes up the right corner of the goal and finds it. The Broncos win 2-1 in overtime. The night session now. Cold nights like this, the keys to huddle up and scream. The Broncos hosting Lawrence. Laura Marquis has it on the right side. At least Arsenault skies it, and Marquis tries to hit it in, but look at the save made by Ashley Yanel, risking her body while she's at it. This one also another overtime thriller. Brianna Cota in OT hits the game winner. Hamden wins 2-1. The 7th-seeded Orono Red Riots made their way to Pencos this afternoon and come home with an upset victory over the number 2 seed, a 1-0 win. Corey Riemersma, the lone goal in the second half for Orono. Now, Ellsworth and Belfast, they call their field the Jungle. In the first direct kick for Josh Bean, they call him Beano, and that's Sagolo. 1-0 Eagles still first. One of the reasons Ellsworth is so good, Aerodynamics. He's a very popular haircut today. I'll show you more in a second. And you see them on display here. Beano throws it to Jack Weeks. Gets a mohawk on it. 4-1 the final. Ellsworth wins. Now Bangor Christian and Easton. The Easton players, I think they all lost bets. They all too going with the mohawk. 0-0 in the first. With a corner here. Rempool in there. Knocks it in. 1-0. A little bit later, same score later in the first, ball out near midfield. Cody Collins, he carbo loaded last night. Check this one out. Off the crossbar, down, up, and in. Patriots win 5-0. 1-4 to start the year. No one is happy with the way Maine hockey has come out of the gate. Coming off a sweep at home at the hands of St. Lawrence, losing a combined 10-1 in the 2 losses. The players are trying to put that behind them and focus on Providence, this weekend's opponent, the first Hockey East games of the year.
It's not something we're very proud of, but we weren't happy with the way we played, and we don't expect any of our fans or anybody else to be happy with the way we played. So, we got to take from it what we can. We're a young team, and we got to move forward and kind of focus on what's ahead.
I think it's tough to stay positive and to keep the guys motivated and to realize that there's light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that's what's good is you play every weekend. You play 2 games a weekend, and I think especially with Hockey East play starting this weekend, I think everybody's excited, and it's kind of a new page for us starting some league play, and we're just hoping we can get off on the right foot here in the Hockey East.
The Patriots are scheduled to leave for London tomorrow night, arriving sometime in the wee hours of Friday morning across the pond. The Rams, on the other hand, already arrived in foggy old London town, practicing earlier today. Sam Bradford, speaking to the media, is talking about the Pats' defense.
They don't blitz a lot, but what they do well is the guys in the back end hold things. They're not going to tip their hand before the snap. Part of my job this week is going to be able to see things after the snap, see rotation, see what they're doing, because they are good at disguising what they do.
Speaking of defense, NBA season just days away from beginning. So too, the defense of the Miami Heat's championship. LeBron James, he sat down and talked about the pressure he feels after finally winning it all last season.
Well, I think it adds even more.
Really?
Because the expectations now rises to another level. Is he going to win more than one? Can he repeat? Can he do this again? But for me as a player, while everyone else is saying, can he do this? I kind of just challenge myself. I'm my own biggest critic, and I put more pressure on myself than anyone else can give me. So I look forward to it.
The Heat open the NBA regular season in just 6 short days, really 5 at this time of night. Next Tuesday, to be exact, against the Boston Celtics. And don't go away because we'll be right back.
We're going to find a star. Simon critiques the candidates, Clint gets political, and Bobby gets busted in the Hollywood Nation. Bobby Brown was arrested Wednesday morning in Los Angeles, charged with driving under the influence. This is the second DUI arrest for Brown this year. He recently completed a stint in rehab.
007 reporting for duty.
A treat for audiences who see the latest Bond flick, Skyfall, on an IMAX screen. The filmmakers worked with IMAX to show a quarter more of the action on the 10-story high screens. Bond hits theaters November 9th.
There's not much time left.
Clint Eastwood is narrating a new campaign ad supporting Mitt Romney for president. The 30-second spot is airing in battleground states. People magazine has exclusive details and pictures of Jessica Biel and Justin Timberlake tying the knot in Italy. The magazine hits newsstands on Wednesday.
We're here on a mission.
And in the spirit of the upcoming presidential elections, Fox has a new online promo showing the judges from the X Factor critiquing the candidates.
There used to be boy bands, and there's always one who didn't sing. That's you.
In Hollywood, Adam Housley, Fox News.
Maine is home to many talented entrepreneurs, but there's one carpenter who has found a way to combine his knowledge of wood and favorite pastime to make a comfortable living on the coast. Allow me to explain.
I've done carpentry for many years, and while I did carpentry, I just loved doing furniture.
Michael Fleming's artistic talents surfaced in his first career. Off the clock, he spends much of his time along the Maine coast, but in recent years, Fleming has found a way to make his beachcombing more productive.
Personally, I just love driftwood. There's a story behind driftwood. It's not like wood where I can go to the lumberyard and make a fine table or so forth. There's something about driftwood that captures you, and it brings back really good memories.
And that's what he uses to make high-end furniture. Fleming says the fun is all in the hunt.
I'm very select on what I choose.
By request or spur of the moment, from Fleming's hands, the driftwood becomes one rustic sofa, lamp, or chair at a time. So although we weren't able to find any driftwood today, I was able to sample some of Fleming's pieces in their own element. While it's as comfy as it is exquisite, Fleming's talents don't rest here. He also makes sculptures. Fleming's creativity has caught the attention of some curious journalists, other than myself, from the New York Times, Coastal Living, and even national television.
Business is good. It's starting to take off, and I think because it's different.
Right now, he's working on a special piece.
I just recently was contacted by a woman from out of state, and her husband's been a Ironman competitor for most of his life, and he's a father of 3, and she asked me to make him a bike out of driftwood, of all things. He's been diagnosed with leukemia. I'm going to make this man something beautiful, so when that hangs on the wall and he comes out of his room every morning, it might give him some inspiration for his journey to recovery.
For a link to Michael's blog, visit our website, foxbangor.com. And I will say, he does update it pretty often, at least a couple times a week. I'm kind of in tune now. I check it out quite often.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. So you go down there. I saw the story. Obviously, we all just saw the story. But what do you think? You know, just to find something that we'd all kind of take for granted. You know, some driftwood and
absolutely
make it into a living. It's really quite interesting.
But the thing to know here is that you can't just go anywhere and pick up driftwood. It's actually illegal on some beaches, which is important to know. Michael, he actually has friends who have oceanfront property, so they allow him to come and take driftwood from their property. Oh. So it's perfectly legal.
Unlike my friends in low places, he's got the friends in the high places with the beachfront property, so that I'm sure would be very helpful. But a very interesting, and I think, I mean, I have to save up some dough. I checked out the blog, but I'm going to have to get some of that
pretty
stuff
pricey,
in my house.
yeah.
It is, but it's good stuff.
Have a good night.
Good night.